We now have for second reading 10.3, which is policy GCRD Tutoring for Pay. Let's get this motion on the floor, and then we'll turn to Dr. Talley and have her walk us through it. Do I hear a motion to approve policy GCRD Tutoring for Pay?
Madam Chair, in our board packets, you'll find the attached second reading of the policy GCRD Tutoring for Pay. I move that the board approve policy GCRD Tutoring for Pay.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Powers. Do I have a second? Okay, thank you, Ms. Green. Are there any questions or comments? We'll turn it over to Dr. Talley and have her walk us through that.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Obviously, after-school tutoring is certainly a service that in Lexington we want to provide for our parents and our students. We have met with principals about our current policy that has not been revised since 2003 to get their input on the policy and the basic structure. There are several things that I'd like to point out to you in this policy. One is that the policy does include that a teacher may not tutor a student for pay during his or her regular working hours. Another important point is that a staff member who is not the current teacher of record for in the content area may enter into an agreement with parents or legal guardians to tutor that student for a fee. And this practice, we feel like, is to protect teachers who might have a conflict of interest. We also feel like there should be some oversight to the service. And in the policy, we're asking that each school maintains a list of teachers who are available to tutor, and that list is available to parents under the auspices of the principal or principal designee, and that's always located in the office of the school. So we have to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions or comments, board?
I would just like to add, as a parent who's had to request a list of possible tutors, it was very nice to be able to just go to the school's office and request that, and then we were able to work it. So thank you.
Dr. Talley, what do we define as regular working hours for teachers?
Well, in our elementary schools, it's different from our middle and our high schools, but elementary schools start at 7:30 and they go till 3:30, and it's on a different schedule at each school.
Sure.
But that would mean after instructional time and after the students have left. Let's say in an elementary school, you'd want the tutoring to start after everyone has left. The students have left and the teachers aren't supervising other students.
And so not beforehand, would that include before school or only after school?
Well, I would not, it wouldn't prohibit someone to tutor before school. I myself wouldn't want to tutor before school because my mind would be on getting ready for my classes, but most of our tutoring is done after school, Dr. Guyton.
Okay. And is there, with that list, is there going to be cost of the, is it going to be cost included, or is it just going to be contact information only? Is there oversight of fees, those kind of things?
Yes, sir. We did discuss the fees, and we uncovered that the scale currently is a range. Some tutors charge $20 an hour, some were charging $30 an hour, and so we're requesting that there's a minimum fee, so it's equitable for everyone.
Gotcha. And
that will be monitored and provided on that list.
Gotcha.
Now, there's certainly outside tutoring. Remember, this policy pertains to our teachers and our employees and our staff. Certainly, parents can go, and some of you may have experienced that, go to outside vendors and pay for a fee as well.
Thank you.
Dr. Talley, for the purpose of this policy, can you explain what our definition of the conflict of interest is? It's not necessarily a conflict between the teacher and another teacher, but the teaching relationship between that teacher and the student and the obligations they have,
So
right?
I'll use our superintendent as an example. He has a high school daughter. Let's say that his daughter takes physics, okay? She does real well in physics. Let's say she struggles in math. I don't know that to be the case, but let's say she does.
That is actually true for the record.
Okay. Our policy would provide for her physics teacher to tutor her after school in mathematics. Now, if we allowed her mathematics teacher to tutor her outside of of math class, we feel like that's a conflict of interest because that same teacher is going to be administering a grade to that student. And we feel like if that teacher of record can provide instruction during that day, maybe she could provide additional help to, and should provide additional help to that student in that same content area and not charge a fee. And our teachers do that. We want to provide that service. So does that help explain the conflict of interest? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. And then I had one other question. In the schools, I mean, probably varying from school to school, the list of tutors and teachers that are available to tutor probably varies in size.
It does.
And I happened to see on social media a little conversation about this, and a parent was unable to get a tutor through their child's elementary school because one wasn't available. And a request had been put out and no one was available. Mm-hmm. Can we set up some sort of a system, it doesn't necessarily have to be in the policy, where the schools collaborate and share each other's lists, or if they're not able to help a parent find a tutor within the school, that they can maybe refer them to another
sure, we can
elementary
certainly do that. I'm looking at Mr. Bowers and Mr. Poole. We can certainly make that
or
happen.
maybe if we could put the because I know I also have had to find a tutor for my child, and if there was a place on the district's website where all of the schools' tutoring lists could be like a library, so that there is, rather than, I could shop around a little bit. I think that might be a nice service to our parents to have all the lists that are created by the schools maintained in one place so that there's a one-stop shop.
We can certainly explore that option.
Any other questions or comments, board?
Yeah, I just have a comment. I think we need to take the words after school out of here because my son gets tutoring before school. So I know that, and he has to pick a day because there's also other students coming in on different days in the mornings. So if we could just take those words out of there or put something else in there that would also include morning time.
Ms. Garris, could you tell me in the policy where you're reading that?
Yes, ma'am. It is the fifth paragraph down, first sentence.
Okay, so if it read, each school will maintain a list of staff who will tutor after or before school? I mean, I need to know the
Correct,
wording
or
that
just take out after
take
school.
it after school.
See, the way I read it was just it's outside the school day. So maybe it's just outside school, outside the school day.
What's the pleasure of the board? I'm happy to change the wording.
I mean, I think you could possibly just, like Ms. Garris said, each school will maintain a list of staff who will and are available to tutor, because it might be that they tutor on a weekend or, I mean, they're
I think just put the period after. tutor
So
and
delete the words after
yes.
school. Okay, consider that done.
Okay. I'm going to need an amendment. So are there any other questions or comments, board, before we make this amendment? Okay. We have a motion and a second on the floor for the original policy, and we are voting on it tonight. So now I'm going to need an amendment, and then we'll have to go back and redo the motion and the second. So let's see. Let's go ahead and do I have an amendment to change that wording to delete the words after school?
Yes, I make a motion to amend policy GCRD, tutoring for pay, where it reads, each school will maintain a list of staff who will tutor after school, to remove the words after school.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Garris. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Green. Are there any questions or comments regarding the amendment? Okay, we'll take a vote on the amendment. All in favor of the policy as changed with the amendment, and we're voting on the amendment now, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that is unanimous. So now I'm going to go back. We're going to need to redo our motion and our second on the policy to include the amendment. So let's go back, and do I hear a motion to approve policy GCRD, tutoring for pay, with the amended words?
Madam Chair, I move that the board approve policy GCRD, tutoring for pay, as amended.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Powers. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Anderson. Let me change that. Okay, thank you, Mr. Anderson. All in favor of approving policy GCRD as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous. So give me just a minute, let me write this down.